Another week, Friday. I'm thrilled to be back. I really am. Hello, everybody. I'm Russ Kane. This is the Midday Show. You're very welcome wherever and whomever you may be and wherever you may be all over the world, because I know we have people watching in Australia and America and everywhere, which is just fantastic. Difficult show this week. Difficult show. Been a difficult week. Personally, I've had an amazing week. Absolutely amazing. I feel so much better thanks to my surgeon. I feel a million times better than I did. Still not 100%, but oh man, just unrecognizable how much improvement that genius and his team and everybody in the hospital, they were great, just great. Anyway, we're going to be getting on to the bigger subjects later in the show. It's been a horrible few days, but we're going to lighten the mood a little bit, and then we're going to have a proper discussion. And your comments, as always, are the thing. Anyway, he is here. He is fearless. He shoots from the lip. Ladies and gentlemen, our very own theatre critic, Mr. Jonathan Baez.
Indeed. Well, a joy to be here, and I'm very happy to be providing the warm-up prior to the proper discussion.
No. This is the proper. This is. Everybody enjoys the theatre thing because people say, oh, "What did he say? What did he say? What did he go and say? Was it any good? What did he say?" And I think I don't carry it in my head. Watch the show.
Of course, this week, in fact, I've had a particularly busy set of episodes in my side hustle away from Jonathan Baez, theatre critic. So life has been busy. So there's only been a little bit of theatricals that I've got up to. But I will be talking first of all about a rather intriguing show that's currently on at the Soho Place Theatre, which is right by Tottenham Court Road Tube Station.
And know it well.
New place, been around for only a small number of years. It's called The Unfair Advantage. And it is a show that only plays each night to an audience of about 30 or 40 or so people. Very small. You all have to sign an NDA before entering the one of the
no donuts allowed. That's what an NDA is.
That as well.
Cannot eat a Krispy Kreme.
And once you're there, seated in a semicircle around the star, the focus of the show, who is a reformed card cheat called Harry Milas. And over the course, and the show only lasts an hour, which is never a bad thing.
My kind of show.
Absolutely.
I'm going to have to take this because it is the funeral phone. You carry on.
Lovely. One speculates that when the funeral phone calls, a coffin gets projected up in the sky, much like the bat phone in Batman. However, while Russ is negotiating the dispatch of the dearly beloved, I'll carry on talking about The Unfair Advantage. Harry Milas is the skilled former card cheat. He is a man in his early 30s. Russ, I was just speculating that when the funeral phone goes, does a coffin get projected up into the skies? A bit like the bat phone.
It's one of my favorite funeral directors, and I lost something, and I was wondering if it was in the back of the hearse because I did 4 funerals this week. Yeah, I know. Get over yourselves. So I did 4 funerals so far this week. And then a wedding on Sunday, another funeral on Monday. Anyway, and he was phoning me earlier. Now, if you know anything about Northwest London, you know that Henley's Corner is a nightmare to get across in any time. And this lovely guy
let him all in a hearse
to take across. No. You ready? Yeah. He's on his way to take 2 horses across Henley's Corner.
Oh dear.
If you're watching this in Australia or America, you don't know what it is like. This huge junction. I get scared in a car. Taking 2 horses across. Good luck with that, because they're not in horse boxes. They're going to be led. Right, back to the
Yes.
card shop.
Are you the chap at the front with the plume in your hat and all
I
that
wear a
stuff?
plume in my hat always. That's why people know me when I'm in Lidl. Right, moving on.
Anyway,
So the card
right.
shop.
So
I'm loving this.
the unfair advantage. This guy Harry Milas is an absolute genius with cards, such that so much so now that he is in fact now employed by casinos as a security consultant, etc. Generally banned from most of them as a player because he's so skilled. And over the course of this 1 hour, he just very nonchalantly takes us through jaw-dropping displays of false deals. That's when you think you're being dealt a card from the top of the pack, but in reality, he's not. He's going this card that's underneath the top of the pack. Riffle shuffles and a card counting stunt, because card counting is, you know, it's what bad people do to
that's
memorize
what gets you
what the
banned from the
order of the card.
casinos.
Absolutely. So this guy talks through, and of course it's all NDA'd. So even if
Can
I
I
could
ask a
remember
question?
it,
May I
go on.
ask a
Yep.
question? There's 30 of it. Is it on a screen as well? Are you able to
No,
see because it's so
you can
near?
see. You can see.
Okay.
You're so near. You're shuffled round. Sort of the first row are in front. The second row sit on high stools behind the
Okay. Got
first
it.
row.
I got it.
So you can
Sorry.
see very clearly. He talks through. Luckily, I'm not going to breach any aspect of the NDA
No.
because, frankly, I
Okay.
can't remember the details of what he explained. But he talked about the memory tricks that he has honed. And, you know, he's also said, you know, to be honest, what you're seeing is the result of 20 years of skill and ongoing learning of how he was taught to use various brain tricks to memorize, you know, what the mnemonics and stuff like that as to how the deck of cards pans out. And it really was a jaw-dropping display. As I say, only lasted
They're
an
on another
hour.
they're on another level, these guys, aren't
Oh,
they? It's extraordinary.
yeah.
I'm a huge fan of these people. I mean, they're amazing.
Sheer entertainment for
How long's
1
this show
hour.
on for? I know it's an
It's
hour, but
on
how does
until
the
the
run?
11th of October.
Oh,
It's on
I
at
fancy this.
it's on at a variety of times at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. So take a look online for what particular
Yeah.
time it's on the day that you're
Yeah.
thinking of. It's great. It's
And not
entertainment.
150 quid a ticket, I hope.
It ain't 150 quid a ticket.
Oh, hooray.
It's a very, very clever man and very skilled. He said, look, I've got no gift. I wasn't born with any talent or whatever. I have just practiced and practiced and practiced to become very good at what I do. You know, you can do this too, basically.
Have
Yeah,
you
right.
watched Penn and Teller? There's an American series, and I watch
I
it on
have
YouTube.
occasionally. So
But it's called Penn and Teller Fool Us.
yeah,
They did it over here with Jonathan Ross. Thank God that's finished. But they did it in America much better. They did it in Vegas.
yeah.
And there was one guy. They're amazing. The conceit of the show is that the magician would come on from all over the world and try to fool Penn and Teller, who are brilliant. They're the creme de la creme. And if they fool them, in other words, Penn and Teller can't work it out, which is rare. And one guy came, and all of them are jaw dropping. I've never seen an act that I'm not sitting there going, oh, that's incredible. But this guy got the deck, and the idea was you choose a card, and he just dropped the deck individually. I'm thinking, well, how the hell does he know where the card is? He's just dropping the deck, going as fast as you can imagine, right? Imagine a rifle shuffle, but he's doing it vertically. And then Penn says, I've worked it out. It's not a trick. You're that good and you've trained yourself that well. You are seeing each card and memorizing it as it falls at that speed. And they were right. These guys are on an absolutely different level. I mean,
Absolutely. It's
incredible.
It's and to watch it, as I say, to watch it close up for an hour or so.
Yeah, I love close up match. I don't like big tricks. I don't like it when they say we're going to make the Statue of Liberty disappear. Well, obviously, it's not going to disappear. It's this BS. But when it's close up magic, it's set right in front of your face. It's fantastic.
What he says is, some of what he does is magic, which is illusion stuff. And he sort of outlined a differential between a magic trick and card cheating. Which is a lot of what he's extremely good at. And it was, magic is when he holds a coin in one hand and makes it pop out of someone else's other hand. Yes, there it is. That's that's that's
and
magic.
you're watching it, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you're glued to it. You're watching everything. You think, I know it's going to be misdirection. I know I'm supposed to be looking there, but really all the action's going on over here. So you're looking at where you think the action's going. You still can't see it. Fantastic.
But let me move on to a different level of brilliance. So that was brilliance on the playing card front, and I'm going to stray into Chantal's territory while
she can't hear you. She's in China.
Hurrah, hurrah! So
she's in China.
I was invited to take a look at Thunderbirds, the original
fabulous.
The original show in Super Marionation, which next week will the first two episodes of which will be broadcast in cinemas as a promotion before they're re-released via streaming or wherever. And this was a 50-minute long episode, as the series was, produced by Jerry and Sylvia Anderson. The very, very first episode, which was what I watched this week, is called Trapped in the Sky. And it's a gripping story about Fireflash, a nuclear-powered airliner, which is on its maiden flight, full of glamorous people, and of course a nasty person who wants to lure international rescue has planted a bomb in Fireflash's landing carriage. No spoilers. I'm not going to say how it ends.
Nothing changes.
But to step back in time and watch Jerry Anderson's genius in Super Marionation was just fantastic.
It is. It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing.
This is 60 years ago. No one had even heard of CGI, let alone used.
No, there was
CGI.
This is it. And when they redid Thunderbirds using CGI, it was horrible. It was absolutely soulless.
Luckily, I was
spared. It was completely soulless. Now, Jerry and Sylvia's daughter, the lovely Dee Anderson's a mate of mine. She's been on the show.
Right.
And she was going to be also on our podcast, Walk the Talk, the Hero's Journey, which I do with the great Mark Collin, who's just gone off to Colorado for 2 months. I'm somewhat jealous. So we'll be doing the show from Colorado and from London, which is going to be fun. And Dee said there were some huge things coming up, but she couldn't talk about it just yet. And this is all part of it. Jerry and Sylvia were, it's a word I don't throw about often because it's so debased, geniuses. Absolutely. They were absolutely brilliant.
And you watch the episodes, you watch the movies play out, you look at the effects, the fireworks that come out of the rocket exhausts, the way the planes move down the runways, and it's a rolling belt of special effects, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
I mean, and the budget was a shoestring budget.
Yep.
When you realise, as you've already alluded to, when you realise it's all practical, what they call in the industry,
practical practical,
no CGI whatsoever.
Yep.
And it's extraordinary.
And
we're so used to CGI. We're so used to it. So if there's a big battle scene, we know there's like 10 actors and the rest is all computer generated.
Well, the difference though is, Russ, that you, me, and people, I don't know at what point that age cuts off, you may recognize the genius of practical special effects. Because what concerns me is those far younger than us growing up on CGI who would look at something like Thunderbirds and say, what's all this about? I can see the string.
I could do that better in my spare bedroom on my laptop. Yeah,
what's the big deal?
The big deal is they had the imagination.
Indeed.
They did it. And when you think of Sylvia and Jerry Anderson's, Supercar, Fireball XL5, Stingray, and then going on to things like UFO and all the rest of it. They were Joe 90, and starting with Four Feather Falls. It's one of the earliest things I can remember as a little kid. I used to rush back from primary school, well, with my mum, obviously. In those days, you got picked up by your mum. We had families back then. And Four Feather Falls was fantastic.
Yep. I mean, you know, but to be not just to be reacquainted with Thunderbird 1, the lugubrious Thunderbird 2, with whatever pod might be emerging from within it.
Size of Brent Cross with a pod in the middle, yes.
And of course the voice work. Now, I recall you conducting the funeral not so long ago of David Graham.
I did. I
indeed,
did. I had. It was such an honor. I mean, David Graham. He wasn't a friend of mine. I'm not going to pretend. I've had breakfast with him a few times.
I remember reading the fact that you'd shared that you'd conducted his funeral.
But I never want to say, "Oh, he was my friend." He wasn't my friend at all. But I was through mutual other people at the same table on several occasions with him, and he was delightful. And one of my voiceover heroes.
Indeed.
And of course, David Graham was the voice of Brains. Was the voice of so many others.
I didn't know he did Brains. I didn't know he did Brains.
I
knew he did
and
Parker.
Interestingly, Sylvia and Jerry Anderson, there's a reason I'm putting him in that order, by the way, as a nod to my friend Dee Anderson, their daughter. Torchy, the battery boy.
That was David Graham.
God, and then Twizzle, which my mum used to call me. Mum used to say things which always made me laugh. She couldn't reach, she said, "Could you twizzle me down that can of peas, or could you twizzle me down that saucepan?" It was always that. Yeah, Fireball XL5. I wish I was a spaceman, the fastest guy alive. I'd fly around the universe in Fireball XL5. Mike Mercury.
But what was also a treat, not just the hearing those voices, seeing that glorious Super Marionation, etc., was the cultural references and how they were then, you know, up aboard Fireflash, this nuclear-powered airliner. You know, everyone says, you know, the captain announces, you know, "Ladies and gentlemen, we've now reached our cruising altitude of 250,000 feet." Out of the stratosphere. You can now unfasten your safety belts, and you are allowed to smoke cigarettes.
Oh my God!
It's just glorious.
It is
Lady Penelope, voiced of course by Sylvia Anderson, who I think covered all of the women, not that there weren't that many in this series. You know, Lady Penelope and Parker.
Of course, David Graham was Parker as well.
Indeed, yes, he was Parker. But you know, there's this lovely, the villain is getting away by road, so Lady Penelope is called upon to track him down with Parker, and she goes, "Oh, how incredibly inconvenient! I'm expecting 3 coachloads of visitors for tea." You know, it's just. The dialogue is
the great
just
thing. The reason
fantastic.
a little something, and again as a nod to my mate Dee Anderson, their daughter, is this: the role that Sylvia Anderson played has been horribly diminished as time has passed, and everyone has said, you know, Jerry Anderson, this Jerry Anderson, absolutely, the guy was brilliant. However, the part that his wife, Sylvia, eventually not his wife, but his wife at the time during the formative years, played cannot be underestimated. Her role was huge, but it was sidelined because, you know, it was a kind of male industry, and, you know, a woman in that industry, I would just push her to one side. Very, very unfair. And I know Dee, I'm not speaking out of turn, feels very, very strongly about making sure that her mother's contribution and her brilliance is recognized. So
I mean, I will say I appreciate, you know, the industry is what it is and was what it was. Of course, the show was very much, you know, when the credits roll, it is created by Jerry and Sylvia Anderson.
Yes.
So they weren't backwards in coming forwards in stating what her, you know, she was there alongside.
And Lady
Jerry.
Penelope was styled on how Sylvia Anderson was. That's how she was styled. That's what kind of how, you know, terribly coiffured and perfect and all.
So that wraps up my my contributions from the world of the frivolous world of entertainment. And now
you see, I disagree with you. I take dispute with that. in terrible times and in dark times and in grim times, we need art in all its form
Indeed.
more than ever. And I will never forgive the Tory government when they said, well, you know, we'll have to shut all the arts down. You'll have to retrain. Well, you're a ballerina and you've spent your whole life training. I've said this before, but I feel passionately about it. You know, you train to be a ballerina or whatever you might be. You don't want to retrain. That's ridiculous. Oh, we're close. You know, we're a bit short on NHS staff. Could you retrain? Don't be a doctor or a surgeon. Go and retrain. Be a bus driver or some shit. I mean, you know, it's just ludicrous. Just ludicrous.
Quite.
It's not right.
Quite.
Anyway,
Well,
so I always believe, you know, art for art's sake. Right. I asked Jonathan before the show, as is right, if he wanted to stay on for the next part of the discussion. I think you know where I'm going to go with this. And he very kindly said, yes, he would. He didn't have to, because I know Jonathan is our theatre critic and not a political apparatchik. So this has been a horrible week. I don't mean for me personally, I've actually had a great week, but it's been a horrible, horrible week with the murder. You can call it an assassination if you will, because it's politically motivated, of Charlie Kirk. I don't even know where to start with this, but I'm going to try and very good, Ramsey. Very good. Yeah, that's a very good point. Most of the Tory MPs know retraining to be reformed. Well, they know which way the wind's blowing, my friend. They know what's coming. So somebody, Adam Bolton, who is a very famous broadcaster, said, I think this morning, well, I don't know why it's getting so much, Charlie Kirk's death is getting so much fun. It's an American problem, nothing to do with the UK, slightly paraphrasing. And I thought, well, you know, that's bullshit. Was the assassination of JFK an American problem? Well, it's not our president. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Those aren't American problems. Those are global problems. That's a global problem, right? Having a tube strike is a British problem. Having a tube strike is a London problem. I don't expect somebody in Milwaukee to get upset because the tube drivers are on strike wanting 500 million gazillion pounds and a free sandwich or whatever it might be. It's silly, but you know what I'm saying. Some things irrelevant of where it takes place in the world is of global consequence. You might as well say the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand at Sarajevo, which prompted World War I, as you know, that was the spark that ignited the powder keg. So it's a Sarajevo problem. It's got to do with us. Well, it had everything to do with us because the consequences are huge. That's kind of where I'm going with this. The consequences of this is the line in the sand has been crossed. I'm going to say outright, if you don't know who Charlie Kirk was, I understand that. I get that. Not everybody knows everybody. If you show me pictures of football or something, I wouldn't have a clue who they were. I wouldn't know. And you'd say, you're stupid. You know, this guy's world famous. I don't know who it is. So Charlie Kirk was a conservative spokesperson.
Influencer.
Conservative influencer. It is very telling that some of the media have immediately said a right-wing agitator, a right-wing this, no. He was conservative. Did I agree with everything he was saying? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I'm not going to be specific about it. I did not agree with everything that he espoused. But I agreed totally for him to say that. I don't think that anything he was saying was evil. I don't think anything that he was saying was immoral. He wanted to get back to basics. He was 31 years old, had a lovely wife, 2 beautiful children who will now grow up without a father, and she will grow up without a husband. And it was very moving for me to see Vice President J.D. Vance put the coffin onto Air Force 2 at the base. And it was also very moving when Air Force 2 landed back at Charlie Kirk's hometown, the airport nearest his hometown, where Air Tower welcomed him back and said he did not deserve. That was air traffic control saying he didn't deserve what happened.
Yep.
No, he didn't. Leslie Jones, I've just seen this out of the corner of my eye, said this, silencing Kirk by killing him, as it should his words be heard by him after his death. I tell you this, and I believe it.
I'm going to jump in there, Russ, and I'm going to say, I hope that that's the case, because we're aware of recent events where the media suppress what happens, because recently we've had Charlie Kirk's appalling assassination this week.
Yeah.
There was that terrible episode of the young woman who was stabbed in the neck in North Carolina, and the media on that, Russ, were basically silent until I think the trial came. Weeks went by. The authorities were suggesting to this poor Ukrainian woman's mother that perhaps her daughter's death was suicide. There have been horrific images. One doesn't need to describe them. The images were horrific. And when you say, when your contributor just recently said, hopefully his words will now be known by millions, the mainstream media, of which refreshingly the Midday show is not part, can so easily conspire to keep the stories that they choose off the agenda or downplayed on the agenda. And that's, where people determine what is and what is not to be spoken. George Orwell like control of what we read and what we're allowed to think.
Well, I will never, ever listen or support BBC News, Sky News, CNN, MSNBC. They are disgraceful. And I use the word advisedly. They are disgraceful. TMZ, which is a huge channel, if you don't know, it's a huge, very massive channel over in the States. TMZ, when Charlie Kirk's death was announced, the guy standing there, you can hear them cheering in the background. They're cheering. Yeah. So the bosses of TMZ, and I immediately wrote, "This smells like bullshit" on X, right? They said, "Oh, no. They weren't cheering at the death of Charlie Kirk. They were watching a car chase and they were cheering." You liars.
Yeah. Yep.
And former employees of TMZ have said exactly what they're like.
Yep.
So my view is this, and then we can expand the conversation, only if you want to. I think the killer, and they will find this piece of garbage, they will find him. That is, he's got nowhere to run. He's got nowhere to hide. They'll find him. You can imagine the effort being put in to get this guy. He created 1 million Charlie Kirks. I think he created about 5 to 10 million Charlie Kirks that day with that one bullet. What is so disturbing about this is that it's been confirmed by the FBI. They found the sniper rifle and they found the shell casings. They were engraved. Now, this is where the MSM, the mainstream media, and the real media, one lies, one tells the truth. Mainstream media said they were engraved with cultural references. No, they weren't. They were engraved with transgender ideology phrases. Let that sink in for a moment. The rifle, the bullet cases, according to the FBI, this is not somebody just, sitting up in Sunderland making this up. It's the FBI investigating the case, that the shell casings and the rifle engraved with transgender ideology. It tells you everything you need to know. Everything. That one shot, to coin that well-known phrase, Jonathan, the shot that was heard around the world, or the shot that reverberated around the world, same as Sarajevo was, is this. It's no longer about left or right. That's gone. The Rubicon has been crossed. I honestly believe it's a fight between good and evil. It's as simple as that. It's a fight between good and evil. What world do you want you, your children, and your grandchildren to live in?
Russ, I agree. There's a phrase that J.K. Rowling, who is a heroic woman in the stance that she takes, there's a phrase that J.K. Rowling published last night, which was 4 sentences. Which, if you bear with me, I'd like to read.
Of course.
A very clear set of sentences. If you believe that free speech is for you, but not your political opponents, you are illiberal. I think that's clear to understand. If no contrary evidence could ever change your beliefs, then you're a fundamentalist.
Yeah.
If you believe that the state should punish those with contrary views to yours, you're a totalitarian. And if you believe a political opponent should be punished with violence or death, you're a terrorist.
Yeah.
And I think that I sadly, I do not think those 4 phrases will receive the recognition, I hope they do, that they deserve, because she speaks boldly and bravely about, frankly, what should be the precepts of a healthy democracy. But sadly, what has happened really over the last few decades in the West has been that democracy has been abused by those people who've manipulated it. I'm not going to say what people, I'm not going to say what organizations, I'm going to just keep it in the generality. But the democratic principles have been abused and are now being used to, in their abused state, are now being used to oppress.
Yeah. What I've said, and you can go back over the shows over the years, I've said that the pendulum will swing the other way. I've always said that because it can't continue. The problem with that is, before the pendulum comes to rest, it swings in extremis the other way before it naturally finds its balance. The people who are supporting the death of Charlie Kirk and have no idea of the whirlwind that's coming their way, they live in a bubble. They think it's okay because they've got away with all this crap for years. I think it stopped that day in Utah. I don't think people will be that tolerant anymore. And every grifter who has latched onto this and tried to blame everybody else but the people who should be blamed, they'll come for you. It's over. It's over. And it won't be pretty and it won't be nice. It should never have come to this point.
I agree with you.
I saw a thing this week, Jonathan.
Yep.
It said, women go to a gynecologist. Men go to a urologist. Everybody else go to a psychiatrist. Now, I also have said, and I believe, what I don't understand is that women have fought, quite rightly, for decade after decade after decade, for equal rights, for recognition. What we were alluding to with Sylvia Anderson on a very small level, but nonetheless. How could they have supported what's happened? This has pushed back women's rights. Years.
Yep, agreed.
It should never have happened. Why should women have to tolerate men coming into their bathrooms in public spaces? This is absolute nonsense. It should have been nipped in the bud and stopped. But everybody, you can't upset anybody. Let's be kind. Anyone with be kind in their, on their Twitter handles and everything, what they're going to be like. They're going to be the opposite.
Yes,
they're
I'm
going to
afraid
be the
so.
bloody opposite.
Yeah,
this should have never have happened.
Yeah, hope
Black Lives
not.
Matter. So that's women. And I don't understand why every woman, the proclaimed feminist, instead of saying, we don't want this, we don't want to be, the least of it is men coming into your toilets. The worst of it being you got to cover up and you're a second-class citizen, you can't drive and treated like crap, right? And they're going, oh, yes, we want this. What's the matter with you?
Yep.
What about all the women who fought so damn hard for equality? What's that about? And then you take things like Black Lives Matter. Don't even get me started. I honestly believe, after all of the struggle to end racism and bring up racial equality and everything, Black Lives Matter, set that back 20, 30 years. 20, 30 years. Had the absolute opposite effect of what they should be. And how dare you start to say, oh, well, they're trying to make Charlie Kirk another George Floyd. For God's sake, Charlie Kirk wasn't a career criminal. Charlie Kirk didn't die of fentanyl overdose. He was, shot by a stinking coward with a sniper rifle, who they will get and who will be executed.
God willing.
He will be.
Russ,
you've got to go.
I need to leave. Thank you for allowing me to share this part of your conversation.
My pleasure. And thank you for finding the time, because I know how ludicrously busy you are at the moment with your proper grown-up job, which is a very proper grown-up job.
It's a side
Jonathan,
hustle.
We will see you in 2 weeks' time, God willing.
Indeed. All the best. Bye-bye.
Of course it is. On an international scale. Bye-bye. The great Jonathan Baz there. I get so passionate about this because I feel it. And I look at the world and I think, am I going mad? Am I going completely mad? Well, what happened to Graham? I know everyone mispronounces his name, Graham Linehan, creator of Father Ted, and so many other great comedy things. What happened to him was ludicrous. Ludicrous. And then you see the people who are pushing that agenda. Dear God, I wouldn't want them within half a mile of me. Christ. And gloating. And they're, what made me sick to my stomach? It's bad enough that somebody gets shot dead in front of their wife and children on a university campus. University campus, right? It wasn't a political rally. It's a discussion. It's a discussion. He wasn't saying, vote for me. He wasn't a politician. And the reason he was killed is they didn't like what he was saying. They didn't like what he was... Well, there's a million people out there in the media. I don't like what they're saying. I loathe what they're saying. Gary Lineker getting his award at the, National Television Awards, whatever it's called, stuck in my throat. And everyone going, hey, well done, Gary. Well done, Gaza. Jesus. I don't want to shoot the guy. Just don't agree with him. How did we move as a civilization? How did we move from, you know what? I don't agree with, let's agree to disagree. Shake hands and go and have a drink. You can disagree with people. It's fine. I disagree with my friends all the time about certain things. Don't go around and shoot them in the neck. How did we go from that? How is it possible? How is society, civilization gone from, let's agree to disagree, and you go, okay, and then you could go off and be perfectly fine and discuss whatever the hell you want. Dave Sleep, the conditions for this to exist is rooted in inclusivism via I don't know what the fuck. Could you explain that in English, Dave? I don't know what that means. I can't even read it properly. The conditions for this to exist is rooted in inclusivism via divisory identity. Explain it in English for me, because I'm hard of thinking today, right? Because I'm tired. Many years ago, I read Jonah Goldberg's book, Liberal Fascism. I didn't understand it, but slowly, I think he was right. You know, you know you've lost the argument when people just say, well, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist. What? Because they don't agree with you. Because they don't agree there's only two sexes. How much longer before people who had a view are now going to be labeled terrorists? It's coming. It's coming. Oh, but Russ, you're wrong. Really? So you label people who are worried about the safety of women and children in the United Kingdom, and you label them, quote, far-right thugs. Women, children, grandmas, grandpas, suddenly they're far-right thugs, caused by a situation that the government's allowed to have. They're allowed to complain. They're allowed to complain. And when Starmer says we have free speech in this country, do we really? Do we? Ask Graham Linehan that. Ask Graham Linehan that. You'll see what happens. I mean, you know, you'll see what happens. There's a huge march tomorrow. I've got to think, I can't do crowds. I'm sorry. I can't. It freaks me out. Anyone who knows me, I can't do lots of people. It's one of the things I really struggle with, okay? There's a huge march tomorrow. Tommy Robinson thing. And it's going to be massive, all right? And I've seen all the videos, and everyone has said no violence, no thugs, nothing. Because if you do that, the police will have the opportunity to come in and smack you up, right? And then the media can say, look, far-right thugs. It'll probably be exceptionally peaceful. Like the march was last Sunday. It's exceptionally peaceful. 70,000 people marched in central London, starting at the BBC. The sooner which it's defunded and dismantled, the better. Just the news department. Leave everything else. Just the news department. It's disgraceful. 70,000 people marched. BBC didn't even cover it. Of course they didn't. Doesn't fit their agenda, does it? Doesn't fit their stinking agenda. So the Charlie Kirk thing. Let's see what Ramsey has to say. I'll read it out. If we really believe in free speech, it has to apply across the political spectrum. And people need to learn how to disagree agreeably. I'm just glad we don't have guns over here. It's coming, Ramsey. It's coming. Don't think it won't. And yes, free speech doesn't exist. Ask the guy who was stopped by the police for wearing a plasticine action t-shirt. Yeah, precisely. All right. Dave Sleet, who's the CEO of A&A, which is a fantastic organization. When we asked everyone to identify themselves as X, Y, and Z, race, religion, greed, I think that's creed, not greed, a Freudian, but then greed meant creed. We created division, isolation, and validation. That's segregation. It was all done with applause. We've got zero integration. Of course we bloody have. Of course we have. Leslie Jones, of course the BBC never saw, yeah, it's amazing. They not only never saw 70,000 people, the BBC never saw Jimmy Savile either. Or Hugh Edwards, come to think of that. Never saw the 70,000 people or Jimmy Savile for decades. It's a cesspit. It's an absolute cesspit. You know it. It needs to be defunded and stand on its own 2 feet. Then they won't get away with it. You know, you don't want everyone to have the same view. It's ridiculous. Of course you don't. You don't. But you're allowed to have differing opinions. And it shouldn't be that you get murdered for having a different opinion. Now, the first thing I wrote after Charlie Kirk was shot dead by a sniveling coward is this. Who's next? Who's next on the list? J.K. Rowling? Stephen Crowder? Ben Shapiro? Candace Owens? Who don't you like? Who don't you like? You don't like their opinion. Who are you going to kill? Who next? Everybody at Daily Wire? And it's all one way. Have you noticed that? It's all one way. That's why it's not about left versus right. It's about good versus evil. We've got to pick a side. Got to pick a side. God knows, with my work, I split my life into 3 different portions, but my work as a celebrant, you see how short life is. 4 funerals this week, another one on Monday. And it's my honor and privilege. I treasure my work. But one thing it tells you, life is very finite. And I didn't understand the repulsive gloating, the cheering, the vile comments coming from people. Now, I expect it from the usual idiots because they're idiots. They're mentally ill. I don't expect it. Teachers, doctors, so-called respected broadcasters, many of whom have been fired, by the way, for disgusting comments. Absolutely inappropriate. Teachers teach your kids. University staff teach your older kids. This isn't teaching. This is indoctrination. All being paid for doesn't come out of nowhere. All being paid for. When you want to destroy civilization, the things you go after is, first of all, you destroy the nuclear family. You make out that the nuclear family is a bad thing. Mom, dad, kid. You make out that's a terrible thing. Once you've destroyed the bond of the nuclear family, you can start to destroy everything else. The church or any religious belief. Once you destroy that, and that's how you destroy Western civilization. It's not rocket science. Everybody knows it. Everybody half a brain knows it. What have they done? Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. They've done a brilliant job. Because everybody is at everybody else's throat. Everybody. Get on the London tube now, you're taking your life in your hands, and I live on the tube. Dave Sleet, I remember getting death threats for claiming, Jesus, good God. I remember getting death threats for claiming an alternative narrative regarding the US-Iraq fiasco in the 1980s, 2000. Christ. Leslie Jones, Johnny Rotten exposed foul. He came out and said it. He was easily ignored as a foul-mouthed punk. If he knew, they all knew. Everybody knew. Didn't do anything about it because he was a cash cow. He was a cash cow. BBC protect their cash cows. Look how they protected Hugh Edwards. Look how they protected him. Absolutely despicable. Despicable. Normalizing stuff which is not normal. Normalizing stuff which is just repulsive. Sorry. But what worries me about the events in Utah this week is that how many other lunatics are now going to feel emboldened. Now, somebody just a little bit earlier, put up, said a comment, well, thank God we don't have guns in the UK. Well, if you want one, you can get one. It ain't easy. It's not like the US, obviously. And thank God we don't. Thank heavens we don't. It's bad enough walking the streets, trying to mind your own business, and you think, who's got a machete? Huh? That's bad enough. I don't want to be thinking who's got a Glock 8, who's got an AK-47, who's got a SIG. I don't want to be thinking those things. You've got a Smith & Wesson. But in the States, particularly, and over here, you don't always need a gun to kill somebody. You go to the kitchen, right? How many other idiots are going to be emboldened by what happened in Utah? Say, I don't like so-and-so. I don't like his or her views. I'm going to kill them. Because you think somehow you've got the largesse, you've got the permission to do it. No, you don't. You don't have that. The security, here's the thing. Ben Shapiro, an amazing, extraordinary person. Ben Shapiro will be saying, yeah, the security that Ben Shapiro has to walk around with is insane. He's not a political figure. He doesn't say vote for this or vote for that. Not that that's excusable. I mean, this is where we've got to. This is where we've got to, right? It's like you're thinking, well, if he was a politician, they kind of had it. No, you can't go around shooting people because you just don't like them. You can't go around killing people because you just don't happen to agree with what they're saying. I didn't agree with everything that Charlie Kirk said. I agreed with some of it. I thought he was absolutely spot on. Some of it I didn't agree with at all. I thought he was wrong. Did I want him to be shot? Of course I bloody didn't. Leslie Jones, I gave up being a licensed. Oh my God. Did you really? I gave up being a licensed firearms holder of a Smith & Wesson 357 Magnum. It's a revolver. After the Hungerford massacre. Christ. Yeah. Hungerford. Thank God. A rarity in the UK. It won't be in decades to come, but a rarity now. Thank heavens for that. We don't want guns here. We don't want them here. All right? We just don't. I lived in America, I'd get a gun straight away. If I lived in America, I'd have a gun. Absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. Why? Because to level the playing field, someone does a home invasion, they're not coming in, with an invitation and a book of poetry. And not here, not in the UK. Ramsey says this, I'm still upset about the killing of John Lennon. Everybody at Ramsey, awful. He would have likely been still alive if he lived back in the UK, 100%. As a comedian said after Nigel Farage got hit by a banana milkshake, all we need to stop one baddie guy with a milkshake is for all the good guys to have a milkshake. Yeah. Leslie Jones says this. Guns are tools. Problem is many who have guns are tools. Yeah. But it's got to the state in America. They keep saying, we're going to have an armistice, hand all your guns in. Yeah. So all the decent law-abiding citizens, as a supposition, let's just say all the decent law-abiding citizens in America handed in their guns. Right? They handed them in. Do you think all the criminals are going to do the same? Of course they're bloody not. Then you've got a situation where the decent law-abiding folk are defenseless and all the criminals are tooled up to the nines. That's why it's a problem. Of course it's way too late for America. It's way too late. It's not going to be resolved. It'll never stop. It'll never stop. And it's not just because the NRA, the National Rifle Association, when you pull it from my cold dead hand, as Charlton Heston used to say as their president, it's not just because of that and because of the influence and because of the lobbying. Yeah, it plays a big part. But it's nothing. It's gone way past that. When everyone who is a criminal is armed to the teeth with God knows what, you understand why people want to defend themselves. So where does this leave us? We can thank God, and as crappy as this country is at the moment, and as shocking as the events are in this country regarding free speech, regarding five-armed policemen arresting a comedy writer at an airport for tweets, and then you see the people who dobbed him in. Look him up. It's a character called Sophie Molly. Sophie Molly. Look it up. You'll see where I'm going with this. All right. So thank God we're not armed. Thank heavens for that. But you can feel it in the air. And it's not good. I don't want this. Julie Voice, who lived in Houston, Texas, now lives in Guilford. I had a gun, but I was taught how to use it. Thank goodness. I bet you're saying, thank goodness I never had to. Yeah, absolutely. Because that moment comes, you think, well, I've had all the training. I've got the gun. Can I do it? Can I do it? Who knows? None of us know. Let's hope and pray none of us are put in that position. You never want to be put in that position. You don't want to know, I wonder if I could do that. That poor Ukrainian girl who was butchered by that piece of garbage, right? And everyone's going on. She's sitting there. She's reading a book, for Christ's sake. She's minding her own business. This guy butchers her from behind. And all the usual race-baiting grifters come out of the woodwork, crawling out like the slugs they are, saying, oh, well, maybe he had... No! You don't sit on a train and just murder somebody who hasn't even talked to you, who's minding their own business. What the hell's the matter with you? It's inexcusable. Inexcusable. You know, this is where the media just keeps stirring it up. Why do they invite these people on? Why? With their terrible, horrible, clearly lunatic views. Shocking. Anyway, the point I was going to make is this. A lot of the social commentary is saying, look at those people in the train carriage. Nobody did anything. This raving lunatic, killing this poor girl who's terrified. Then she's bleeding and nobody did anything. Not a thing. Didn't lift a finger. Any of the other passengers. I'm not going into their ethnicity. I'm leaving that aside. I'm just saying there were passengers on the train, right? It's so easy to be so judgmental when it's not you. I don't know what I'd have done. I'd have been absolutely petrified. And I think people watching all over the world, you'd have been scared stiff. Here's a raving lunatic with a knife. What the hell are you going to do? Afterwards, you'd go and try and help her and staunch the bleeding, and you try and give her some comfort so she doesn't die alone, for God's sake. The worst fate anyone could have, dying alone. But to think you're going to intervene, you don't know. You just don't know how you're going to act. We're not trained to respond that way. We're ordinary people doing silly little jobs, you know. We're not trained to deal with physical, horrendous, life-threatening conflict. We're not. So, yeah, Dave Sleet says the following, of course. The key to firearms in the home is in the training and readiness to use when under pressure and to use under the right circumstances. I think in America, I think it's inevitable. They need them. Yeah, it'd be lovely. Wave a magic wand and pretend that guns have never been invented. Because that's the only way you can take back control. Plague God, it doesn't come here. But if certain sectors of society in the UK have arms smuggled into them, we are cooked. We are cooked. No coming back from that. Here, Chrissy Richards says this. Chrissy Richards, who's in Spain watching this. I'm sorry. I would have had a go. Probably would have died, but I couldn't have stood by and not tried. I hope all of us feel that. Rosie, hi. Rosie Jessup. I'm afraid I would have tried to do something. Why do you say you're afraid? Bravo. Bravo. I would have tried to do something. I went on patrol a month a year for 12 years. That's right. Leslie Jones, if I lived in the USA, I would own a weapon. First thing I'd do. As soon as it was legally available to me, I'd get a handgun, keep it in the home for self-protection, go and get trained, go to a gun range, learn how to use it properly and correctly. And then I'd get it for concealed carry, what they call a permit for concealed carry, which you can't have, I believe, until after at least 12 months have elapsed after you first got your gun and you proved you're not a raving lunatic. Not that it doesn't stop all the raving lunatics getting guns. We know that, but that's on the black market. And that's what I do. Would I want to carry a gun in London? No. Of course not. No. No, not at all. I'm talking about if I lived in America. It's a different thing. It's a different culture. So what have we learned today? Absolutely nothing. Nothing. Yesterday was the anniversary of 9/11. 3,000 people dead because of terrorism. And what have we learned? Terrorism is endorsed and supported, especially in Britain, in Canada, and don't get me started on the French. Not to mention what the Spanish said they wish they had nuclear weapons to help out the Gazans. That's what they said yesterday. That's the Spanish for you. Police, Rosemary Jessup, who knows these things, police don't want to carry guns here. No. Well, yeah, and I get this. Chrissy Richards, my friend's sister, lived in Florida, always slept with a gun under the pillow. Yeah, I get that. Home invasion? What are you going to do? You're not going to start. Oh, I wonder what's the code on my gun safe? I can't. Do you remember the code on the gun safe? Oh, there's people here with shotguns. Don't worry, I'll be all right. Someone's got a baseball bat. Somebody else has got an AK-47. I'll just remember the code. Oh, good. Now I'll load my gun up. No, stop that. Going to be ready. You got to be on it. I get that. So what have we learned? Yesterday, the anniversary of 9/11, a turning point in world history. And what are the New Yorkers going to do? They're going to vote in as mayor one of the most radical Muslims you could imagine. I don't know if you followed this guy. I look at it and I go, you must be kidding me. This is a joke. This has got to be Saturday Night Live satire. It's incredible. That's the anniversary. That's what they've learned. Well, good luck with that. You know, we've learned nothing. We've learned absolutely nothing. And that's what's so depressing about it. That's what's so upsetting about it. I always like to end with like uplifting. Well, it's going to be okay because X, Y, and Z. Well, we've got another 4 years to endure if they make it. And they'll cling on to the last seconds of power. You know it. What a week getting rid of Mandelson. And if they uncover that Mandelson was flagged up by the security services and said, don't choose this guy, he is not security safe. If the security forces said that to the prime minister of this country and he ignored it, that is not a good look. But I end with one thing. I hope to God that Keir Starmer never says, I fully endorse Russ Kane. I stand by Russ Kane. I support Russ Kane. Because I know within 24 hours, I'd lose my job. Yeah. Chrissy Richards, look it up in Spain. Look what the guy said. Listen, all of you, please stay safe. Look after yourselves. Be kind to yourselves. What a world. What a world. Just look after yourselves. Try and make it a nicer world if you can. I'm Russ Kane. This has been the Midday Show. Not a special edition. It's because Phil's away and Chantal's away. So there's only me and Jonathan to start with. That's it. I can't pick it up and say, have a special edition of the Midday Show. No, that's because everyone's away. Leading a life. Take care. Bless you for watching. Record numbers watching today. Thank you. Wherever you're watching, have a great weekend. Will I be back Monday? I can't be back Monday. Another funeral. But Longy Long will be here. And I know you love him because he's a terrific guy. Till we meet again, which will be next Friday. God bless. Take care. Bye-bye. And no,